All right, welcome to Inside My Canoe Head. This is a YouTube channel about individual emergency preparedness while we try to address life's disruptions in the midst of a global pandemic. Now, the first question asked is why us? There is a myriad of a whole bunch of other folks out there on YouTube channels, on podcasts, on various other social media platforms that are telling you all kinds of things about individual emergency preparedness, how to get ready for a disaster, and how to save your family from coming Armageddon. But what are they actually talking about? They're talking about potential economic collapse. They're talking about civil disobedience leading to violence. And they're suggesting at times that you should run to the hills, live in a yurt, and live off grid. Well, that's perfectly fine. However, what about the vast majority of people out there in the world who simply want to carry on their life as is, where is? They enjoy their neighbors, their communities, their houses, their faith groups, their jobs, even their commute and the places that they live. This matters to them, and they have no interest in uprooting it all, nor do they want to buy 2 years of food and put it in the basement. They want 5,000 liters of water in jerry cans in their basement. But these people are looking for something to be just a little bit more prepared. COVID exposed weaknesses in our areas of our lives that we previously believed to be fairly secure. When you think of the transportation, our finances, financial stability, job security, access to commerce, even access to basic healthcare services in our communities have all been disrupted by something that was completely 100% out of our control. And most of us can remember what it felt like last March during the first lockdowns when nobody really knew what was going to happen or what society would look like when we emerged from it. Now let's think about that. Nobody wants to go back to that kind of life. Nobody wants that kind of uncomfortableness that we all felt. So at a government level, they're looking at things like disaster risk reduction. They're looking at strategies to help mitigate big picture stuff from known probable events that may occur in the future. But as an individual household owner, what do you do? What does that look like for you? Now, research tells us that we're moving towards something called disaster impact reduction, which it means we care that the fact that the utilities are turned off, we're really not concerned about what turned them off, whether it was an earthquake, tornado, whether it was a flood, a fire, or some other incident. In reality, in our day-to-day lives, if we continue in urban and suburban environments, we're concerned about access to things that support our society. So when we look at what holds up our society, now our society is kept going as we see it by what we refer to as critical infrastructure. Now, if you take this platter as society, and this represents you and everything that you do, and underneath it are the 10 elements of critical infrastructure that hold it up, the sectors of society that make a difference. And when one, maybe two, or even three of these might fall off, the rest of society holds true. But when 5 or more start to go, or a couple of the principal ones go, then your life does not maintain the same. So if you're wishing to continue life as normal as you possibly can, and what we're going to do on this channel is we're going to take 5-minute videos and we're going to look at each element of that critical infrastructure. We're going to see how you and your family may interrelate with that and become dependent upon that. And then from that dependence, then we'll talk about what happens when this sector of critical infrastructure is removed from availability to you. For example, you have a boil water advisory in your house because of potential contaminated water, but the power is out. And because the power is out, you're unable to use your electric stove to boil water. So we believe that if you fall within this target audience, we believe that your best way to become prepared is to look at your dependence and your reliance on the elements of critical infrastructure that keep our society going, and you create little micro to-do lists for each one of them. We then collate all 10 micro lists together, and you have developed a preparedness plan that is built for you. There's no such thing as a downloadable PDF checklist to become prepared. When you look at this via your family and your situation, you develop a plan plan that maps for you, that fits all of the needs of your family, and it will look largely different from your neighbor because we all have different families. We all have different needs and requirements. So when you do that, you will then have an actionable plan. So here at Inside My Canoe Head, that's what we're trying to do. Guide you through the 12-step process of creating an individual emergency preparedness plan. So next week, our video is going to be on step 1, which is all about accepting responsibility for your outcomes, understanding the world environment and what the federal government, the provincial government, and your municipal government can actually do for you in the time of need. And then looking at what planning is about. How do you create plans? What are we trying to do? And finally, examining that big question. Why do you want to become prepared? I mean, it's an existential question, but it's important to understand because that will be your theoretical framework or your lens through which you examine this. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to see you next time.